Um, I made a video a while ago about um, what I termed the negative, um, well, one of the negative symptoms of what schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. I remember I said at the time that negative, in the sense that it's something that's missing. So feeling flat or low or no energy are all things that um, it's almost like you shouldn't be there. You should be down here. You should be up here or in the middle, because that's the optimum apparently. Um, Today, I thought I'd make a video about positive symptoms. Um, some of you may be watching thinking, "Oh, he's labelling and whatnot," but I the interesting thing for me is I don't see them as, well. I don't like this idea of illness, um, mental illness, as though something is wrong. Something is wrong with me that needs fixing. Uh, because I am me. Um, there's no chemical imbalance in my brain, or um, there's nothing genetic. There's no gene, schizophrenia gene, that's kind of ruining things for me. I am the person I am, um, and so to lead on from that, this idea of positive symptoms, things that are there that should not be, things like believing you're Jesus Christ, um, uh, or hearing voices, which is what I wanted to say a bit about, um, because I've come, uh, my understanding of this hearing voices thing has changed a lot over time. Um, I've always heard voices, you might say, but then what child hasn't? What child um, doesn't imagine? Doesn't uh, That's the interesting thing with children, is when you grow up, you become an adult, you start thinking of how you relate to the world, like I this and I that. Whereas children will um, they'll be like they'll think about things or talk about things like mummy did this and daddy did that. Mummy said this to daddy and daddy said this to mummy, and they're not really involved in it. But I my my thinking is these children must um, they've got this amazing imagination. Um, it's a free imagination that um, they can kind of they have these in their mind. They've got mummy talking to daddy, and you can see this, like if they play with toys. They'll have the two toys and they'll be like, and I don't think that's them kind of thinking, oh, I think this toy would say this, as we would do if we were writing a book. I think this character would say this. For children, that's a really pure kind of um, that's just their imagination, just directly directly coming. There's no real conscious kind of real thing. It's just literally they're playing out their imagination, and that's kind of one of the things that led me to think about voices a bit differently, um, because in my mind, um, I have people having conversations, and I think when you tell someone that, they automatically think, uh, okay, that's 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 not normal, you know, because adults don't think that way. Um, um, so, and that's why immediately it's kind of like it's easy to label that kind of experience as a hallucination. You know, having these things that they don't feel like they're coming from me in the same way that my thoughts do. Um, so they must be, I don't know, might be, maybe it's easy to attribute them to some kind of external agent, you know, and start and develop paranoia because of that. Um, but for me, I think it's it's kind of like that childlike imagination, that kind of connection with just pure imagination. There's no consciousness involved. And I think one of the reasons, probably for me, why they have had such trouble with them, is because of the content. And the content can be bad. I mean, I hear people talking to each other, um, or talking to me, or narrating my life, and sometimes there's sometimes there's it's almost like commands, like, smash your head against that window or something, and um, or worse, it can be worse, and it can be quite distressing. Um, but the interesting thing that I realised was that all of the nasty things, uh, against other people, or wanting to, I don't know, but I won't go into it. But they were all about things I was worried about, like, not consciously walking around going, "Oh, I hope I don't, you know, push that person into the street or something." But there was like that that worry that's just there, and you don't really think about it. You don't really think, you're not aware of it, but it is there. It's like a general thing, like, okay, you don't want to be that person, um, or you have an idea about the person you want to be, or not. So when I realised this, there's the worry, it made me realise that, um, or wonder if the unconscious worry, could be what's causing the voices. Um, so the way I thought about it was, or I can explain it best, I think, is, I say to you right now, don't think of a pink elephant, and unless, I don't know, I'm guessing you had an image, or involuntarily just pop into your head, of a pink elephant. And in that way, that's the same as the voices. There's this worry of, don't think that, or not consciously, not consciously. I'm emphasising that because it's very important. But because you're so worried about not thinking about something, your mind, your mind, it just throws it up. It's like imagination. It throws up an image, or it can throw up a voice, I suppose. So, you know, because I experience both, these images and voices. Um, um, and I guess that would probably be what would be classified as a positive symptom of paranoid schizophrenia. Um, but hopefully you can see that, um, they're not bad. They're not, these thoughts, on the surface they seem kind of terrible and horrible things, and you're thinking, why am I evil? Am I a bad person? I'm such a bad person for thinking these things. But actually, if you kind of get down deep enough, you realise that one, they're signs that you're very caring, because you're kind of so worried about not wanting to do these things that they jump into your head. And secondly, um, when you have them and they're so strong and take you off your feet sometimes, that's quite positive as well, because it's only like a really creative and imaginative mind that could make something so powerful. Um, I mean, at one point I did a, a big thing for me, which took a while, was the idea that just because these things are in my head or in my mind, happening in my mind, doesn't mean that I have to subscribe to what they're saying. Um, and that wasn't an easy thing to take on board, because there's always a lingering doubt, like, well, they must be coming from somewhere, and somewhere in me, and I must have wanted to do these things somewhere deep inside. But think about with the pink elephant, kind of turn that on its head, and now um, I don't worry about it. When they happen, they do still happen, because that's normal. But when they do, I I may be taken aback or initially, but quickly I will just think about them in the pink elephant kind of way. And I'm caring and I'm creative, and give myself a big pat on the back. And the funny thing is that I've been doing that a while now, and it didn't take long, but they just I don't get bothered by them anymore. Um, it's almost like they have no power, you know. And in fact, by doing this, I've managed to re-engage in my imagination, and I do things like I meditate mindfully, and it's brilliant because I can just I can sit back and watch all these kind of voices, which I don't they're not in voices, they are voices, but they're imagined, and I can watch them just floating across, or images floating across my mind, um, and they've actually got some really good insights. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that's because it is my imagination, and the unfortunate thing was, where it was so terrible, I suppressed it and kind of almost lost touch with it. I mean, bits got through the barrier that I put up, but now that I'm more comfortable with them, uh, I found I'm a lot freer thinking, and I'm getting more and more. I'm breaking down that barrier that I put up. Um, so um, I know this video is a bit. I want it to be a positive thing to show people that um, the whole hearing voices thing. I mean, that's different for everyone, but maybe maybe it isn't such a bad thing when you get down into